In the summer of 1858, a package from the far side of the world arrived at a quiet house in the English countryside and detonated 20 years of silence. Inside, a short essay by a young specimen collector, feverish in the Malay Islands, laying out, step by step, the exact theory the older man at that house had discovered 2 decades earlier and locked in a drawer. Every year of caution, every postponement, every not yet, cancelled by one stranger's envelope. The man holding the package is Charles Darwin. The idea in the drawer is natural selection, the most dangerous thought in the history of science. And the question of this episode is not how he found it. It is why the man who found it sat on it for 20 years and what finally made him move. He was born in 1809, the same day, as it happens, as Abraham Lincoln, an ocean away. His father was a wealthy doctor. The plan was medicine, then the church. Medicine collapsed the day young Charles fled an operating theater. This was surgery before anesthesia, and never went back. The backup plan, a country parsonage, mostly meant leisure to collect beetles, which he did with the obsession other men reserved for gambling. His father exploded. "You care for nothing but shooting, dogs, and rat catching, and you will be a disgrace to yourself and all your family." Remember that sentence, it is the baseline. At 22, the disgrace was offered a berth as gentleman companion and naturalist on a small survey ship bound around the world, an offer his father vetoed as one more idleness until an uncle intervened. The ship was the Beagle. The voyage was scheduled for 2 years. It took 5, and it manufactured the century's most careful pair of eyes. The Beagle years are remembered for the Galapagos, but the important thing happened everywhere, continuously. He looked at things the way Leonardo looked, and unlike Leonardo, he wrote for the public from the start. In Argentina, he dug out fossil giants, armored creatures like colossal versions of the living armadillos scuttling past the dig. Why should extinct giants and living dwarfs share one body plan and one continent? In Chile, he stood in an earthquake, then found seashell beds lifted meters above the tide, and grasped that geology is just time multiplied by small forces. And in the Galapagos, he nearly missed the punchline. He collected mockingbirds and finches island by island, half carelessly, and only back in London did the ornithologist John Good stun him with the verdict, not varieties, but separate species, island by island, as if creation had been retailored a few miles apart. Species, then, were not fixed. They drifted like coastlines. The question that would eat 20 years was, by what mechanism? The mechanism arrived in 1838, in an armchair from an economics book. Malthus on population, every species breeds beyond what the world can feed. Most offspring die. Darwin saw the machine instantly. If death is the editor and offspring vary, then whatever variation survives gets inherited, and given geological time, that blind editing sculpts new species. Natural selection. No designer required. He was 29, and he understood precisely what he was holding. A mechanism that unemployed God from biology in a country where questioning creation was social and professional self-immolation, and where his own beloved wife, Emma, feared for his soul in writing. So watch what this supposedly timid man actually did. He wrote the theory out, a sketch in 42, a full essay in 44, sealed it with instructions and money for his wife to publish it if he died. Then he told almost no one. To his friend Hooker, he confessed the secret in a sentence that says everything about the cost. It is like confessing a murder. What Darwin did with the next decade looks, from outside, like the world's most elaborate procrastination, and was actually armor plating. He knew exactly how the establishment killed dangerous theories, not by refuting them, but by dismissing the author, an amateur, a speculator, a man who never did the hard work. So he did the hard work, ostentatiously, 8 years dissecting barnacles, every known species, living and fossil, 4 volumes, a study so definitive it won the Royal Society's medal and made him, formally, unimpeachable on species. He bred pigeons in his garden to watch selection operate in fast forward under the human hand. He built a correspondence network across the planet, breeders, gardeners, colonial collectors, thousands of letters, each one quietly harvesting evidence. And through it all, chronic illness, vomiting, tremors, insomnia, likely his body billing him for the double life. When the confrontation came, no one would be able to say the man had not looked. Leonardo hoarded observations and shipped nothing. Galileo shipped fast and was crushed by power. Darwin was building a third strategy: ship once, but make it unanswerable. Then the world set his deadline for him. June 1858. The package from the Malay archipelago, from Alfred Russel Wallace, a self-taught collector, no fortune, no Cambridge, selling specimens to survive, who, in a malarial fever, had worked out natural selection and mailed it, of all the people on Earth, to Darwin, asking if it merited publication. 20 years of caution, and a fever dream from a younger, poorer man had closed the entire gap in a fortnight. Darwin's friends Lyell and Hooker brokered the famous compromise, a joint reading at the Linnean Society, Wallace's essay alongside extracts of Darwin's sealed 44 essay, proving his priority, with neither author present. Wallace was still in the jungle and learned of it months later by post. Then Darwin sat down and burned through the book he had postponed for 2 decades, compressing his planned multi-volume monster into what he called an abstract, 490 pages. On the Origin of Species appeared in November 1859. The bookstore stock sold out the first day. He was not there for any of it. He was hiding at a spa, being violently ill, while the country argued. The battle that followed is famous, and Darwin barely appeared in it. At Oxford in 1860, Bishop Wilberforce asked the biologist Thomas Huxley whether he claimed descent from an ape on his grandfather's or grandmother's side. Huxley, self-appointed as Darwin's bulldog, replied he would rather have an ape for an ancestor than a man who used great gifts to obscure the truth. Darwin, constitutionally incapable of public combat, ran the war the way he ran everything, from his study, by post, feeding allies evidence, and letting temperamentally armored men absorb the blows. The armor held. Within a decade, evolution was mainstream science in Britain. He kept publishing quietly radical books, The Descent of Man, The Expressions of Emotions, and finally, with perfect Darwinian humor, a bestseller about earthworms, how the smallest repeated actions, given enough time, turn over the entire soil of the world. He died in April 1882, expecting a village burial. Parliament and the scientific establishment insisted otherwise, and the man who had unemployed God from biology was buried in Westminster Abbey, a few steps from Isaac Newton. So what did Darwin know? Put the last 3 episodes side by side, because they form one argument. Leonardo saw everything and shipped nothing. The world lost 3 centuries. Galileo shipped immediately and alone, and power broke him for it. Darwin found the third path. He shipped once, late and unanswerably, 20 years spent not hiding, but armor plating, credentials, pigeons, barnacles, a planet of witnesses, until attacking the author had become impossible and only the idea was left to fight. And even then, the timing was not his. That is the sting in this story, and its most practical lesson. The world will set your deadline, and it will not consult you first. Somewhere there is always a Wallace, hungrier, faster, with nothing to lose, closing in a fortnight the gap you have been managing for decades. Darwin got the credit because when the letter came, the armor was already built. Prepare like Darwin, but never confuse preparing with being safe, because the envelope is already in the mail. Next week, a new run of Minds begins. with the woman who fought an empire's entire bureaucracy armed with a lamp, a ledger, and the world's first infographic. Florence Nightingale. Subscribe and step into the minds that made history.